The road to success is paved with failure, which I think most of recent years it seems like we're averse to failure. We don't think anyone should ever fail. We change the standards if people aren't meeting them. We would think our children should never experience any adversity and failure because if you fail, you'll give up or quit. But really, failure is vitally important to getting anywhere. As a coach, if you have a team that hasn't lost a game yet, you know we need to lose a game. We'll be a better team if we lose. You never have that game where you think, yeah, this is the game. We'll lose this one. But when it happens, you know it's better for you. So the thing about failure is it doesn't mean you succeed by going back and doing the same thing and just doing it harder. If you do what you've always done, you will get what you have always got. But I know you can remember seeing people, and certainly I've made that attempt. It didn't work, so I'll just do it harder. It's not going to work. And you have to look at what you're trying to accomplish and figure out it's like in the Barkley when you come to an obstacle, it's over, under, around, or through. And through is the last choice because you didn't get through the first time. So we get to the big lie we tell our kids. You can be whatever you want to be. You can't be whatever you want to be. Only some people can be an Olympic champion. Some people can do math in their head. You can't just be whatever you want to be. I wanted to be a football player when I was growing up and we lived in Oklahoma. In Norman, we lived in married student housing, and there was nobody had air conditioning then, so on the evenings everybody would sit outside and listen to the football players and the banner and the way everybody got along and talked, and that just seemed like a world I wanted to be part of. I didn't just want to play, I wanted to specifically be the meanest, nastiest, dirtiest linebacker that ever played football that people were terrorized by. The only shortcoming that I had was that I was the smallest kid in the entire school or in my grade. I was about the same size as kids 2 grades younger than me. And I wasn't one of those lightning fast, hiccup quick little kids. I was slow. I was not athletic. But you can be whatever you want to be. So I went out for Pop Warner. I went out for junior high. And I got to carry a lot of equipment. And if I was lucky, I got knocked around by bigger boys in practice. So there I am. And I wish that was an exaggeration. So opportunities don't just happen, you have to create them. At the end of my freshman year of high school, I was 5 feet tall and weighed 70 pounds, just to give you an idea what sort of football potential I had. But I had seen something on TV, these guys that the place kicker used to be one of the big linemen with a flat-toed boot, and he came and kicked the ball straight, and they'd come up with these soccer-style kickers that backed off to one side and sidewinded it through. And I thought, they're little wormy guys just like me. So I spent the summer, I went to the football field every day, and I would back, I'd seen them on TV. You back up so far, you move over so far, you kick the ball. By the time I saw in the paper football practice was the next day, I was deadly from 35 yards in. I could hit from 40 more often than miss, and 45 sometimes, and maybe from 50. And I thought, this is it. I've got my time. I watched and waited. All the players came, and they were there waiting, and the coaches came on the field, so I took my steps back, very careful, and my steps over, and I had put it at 35 yards and just drilled it right down the middle. And sure enough, one of the coaches peeled off, and he came straight over to me, and he said, not what I thought he was going to say, which is, do you go to our school? Would you like to kick for our team? He said, we're having football practice. You have to leave. As it turns out, our football coaches were really into their image as old school coach at football, and there was no place on a little football team for a little wormy guy who kicked the ball sideways. So, I'm failing a lot with the clicker. So you change the things you can change, and you accept the things you can't. I mean, I had exhausted every possibility. I was not going to be on that football team. So I went through this, being from a sports-minded family and really being determined to be part of that world. I went through all the sports they have. There was only place that I found that was possible for someone with no athletic ability and no gifts was I went out for cross country. And it worked out really good for me. No matter how bad you are, if you really work hard, you can find some success in distance running. I made the varsity squad eventually for a team that finished as high as third in the state. And I had a few successes in track. I know my senior year I got to get a gold medal in the regional competition as the slow member of the 2-mile relay team. The other guys carried me. My job was to not try to do more than I could do. Don't think you can go out fast with the fast guys, you'll just die. So anyway, I went along, and high school ended. I couldn't run college cross country, and I had some pretty erratic periods right out of high school. But I got when I was actually living indoors like other people again. I was back at running, and I thought, make a list of your strengths. You're always in shape, and the longer the race is, the better chance you have. So I just kept moving up in distance. I thought, well, I'll be an Olympic marathoner. And it's a reasonable goal. You can be anything you want to be. Except when you realize that the Olympic marathoners run faster per mile than I can run for 1 mile. So you never give up. You're like the little wind-up car that bounces off the wall and takes off in a new direction. Ultra marathons, that's where my hope is. I can be an ultra marathoner. Problem is, the closest ultra marathons then was in Miami or New York City. So if opportunity doesn't knock, build a door. I started the Strolling Gym 40 so that I could display the greatness that was coming one day. And as it turned out, when I ran the first ultra, it was readily apparent that I had actually passed my optimum point, and I was not even as good at ultras as I was at marathons. But I really enjoyed putting on the race, and it seemed like things came out well. I thought, well, maybe this is my place. And I went on over the standard of the day for a race director was you budgeted it so you didn't make any money, because that would be unethical. But you didn't want to lose a lot of money, because by then I was married and would have been killed. And I put on races that I thought I would enjoy running. They weren't always the standard races that everybody does. And they weren't always races that anyone besides me would ever want to run. But I learned a lot. And eventually I built up quite a bit of those I was doing, and the real turning point came in 2011. In my real career in accounting, I had actually moved far enough up the ladder that they had a regime change where I worked, and I was one of the people who got purged. So I was on 57, a little bit on the old side to start at the beginning. You just, you find yourself in that intermediate space where you're not hireable. I'd always thought, if I can't do anything else with all my years in running, I could go get a job at a running shoe store. And so I applied at a running shoe store, and they told me that they couldn't hire me because I would frighten their customers. So I thought, I can take the races I have. Some of them aren't set up to make money. But a couple of them I could do as commercial races, because now there's a lot of races. Ultras and race businesses were a thing. And I said I could add some races, and I had an idea for a business model where that I would utilize high school athletic teams. Having been a volunteer coach, I know how desperate they are for money, and the fundraisers they have to do, and then local service organizations, and feed money into them, take a lower profit margin, but I could make enough. All I really wanted to do was to not deplete my retirement funds before I didn't need them anymore. And it caught on really well. I'd found my place in athletics, the thing that I was good at. I'm going to start early with the clicker. I was actually late because the new beginnings are often disguised as painful endings. When I ran that first ultra and realized that, there is not any sport I'm actually going to be good at. It's no matter how hard I beat my head against the wall will still be there. Went along, the race business went good. It built up. I not only wasn't depleting my retirement funds, I actually added to them. I was contributing to all these worthwhile causes, which they're all things that I really, really believe in, and it was in the way as I was raised. You want to make a contribution, so it was really rewarding. But then came 2020 and COVID. And everything shut down. The race businesses were not going to go. And so I thought, well, there's no use to waste time fretting about what you can't do. I think if I'm stopped here and this is my life's experience being blocked at every turn, what can you do? And I was out walking and thought up a race and put together a budget in my head, and I thought if I could get 200 runners, that it could break even and I would be doing something instead of doing nothing. And it was the great virtual race across Tennessee. Probably there's people in this room who did it. It ended up topping the 200 mark. We had 20,000 entries from 78 countries. I thought if I got over $200, whatever that we could make some to donate to food banks, and because during COVID they would obviously be under stress. Well, we ended up with $500,000 that we were able to give to food banks and animal shelters. But my memory of 2020 is a lot different than anybody else's. All I remember is working around the clock. It was when I started taking this stupid damn phone and putting it by the bed because it would never quit. I was able to hold skeleton races for my normal races at zero profit and write checks for my vendors to help them make it through. The guy that sold me my T-shirts had to open back up his place. We had a place in Canada that reopened, and one in Europe, and one in Singapore. You really feel lucky to be able to do those things. So after that was over, and I went back to the racing business, now it's the backyard. And the backyard is one of those crazy races I invented. One people did like. There's over 600 of them in, at last count, 85 countries. We put together championships and bring all the best of the best to my yard. And we have every other year the World Championship. Some of y'all may have seen it. It was just the other week. And all these guys are coming in, and they'll say, "This is a dream. This is a dream. This was my dream." And I realize I didn't get my dream, but even better, to help other people. As it was